my world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am what I am.
Moninne, if you could tell me a little bit about the work that you do here with Belong To, since you are now their executive director, and some of the work that you get to do here with the community.
Right. Yeah, so I joined Belong To 18 months ago as executive director. I had been director of Mariage Equality for 8 years, and it was a nice continuation really of the work, because so we got constitutional and legislative equality for LGBT people, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to make sure that our schools were safe and supportive environments for young LGBT people, and to change public attitudes. They still haven't really caught up in some places around what it means to be LGBT, especially the T part. So I jumped at the chance really, and I have been working with the team here, fantastically passionate and innovative team here, who we support about 150 young people a week here in the Dublin office. So we run groups here for young trans people, young LGBT women, LGBT young people over 18, and then on Sundays, so it's Belong To Sunday, and that's all young LGBT people under 18. We get sometimes as many as 70 young people to come along to that. So what we do is we support young people in a equal partnership way. What that means is the youth groups are youth-led, peer-led, so we train up young LGBT people to lead the groups, and then we have them plan 6 months in advance the agenda for the workshops, and they can do workshops on anything from positive sexual health to minding your mental health to Harry Potter, or coming out or bullying, or lots of different things, and they really lead the work. So I suppose the most valuable thing that we provide in Belong To is a safe space for LGBT young people to come and meet people just like them. So their gender identity or their sexual orientation is the least remarkable thing about them. They just get to be themselves amongst peers. But we also provide very more structured support. Young people can come in and book in for one-to-one time with a youth worker around anything that's coming up for them. And then we have very close ties to external agencies, and we've brought some of them inside. So we now have a counsellor who works here twice a week, and she'll work with young people who are self-harming or feeling suicidal. And it just means then that they can come to a space that they're familiar with and meet somebody that they know is LGBT friendly, and they can talk through those issues. And then we work with lots of different agencies, sexual health agencies, mental health agencies, and we have the only, as far as we know, the only LGBT drug and alcohol youth officer in the country. So he works here supporting young people and also does outreach. So he goes out into the streets of Dublin in the summertime and meets with young LGBT people around, little pockets of them around the city, and talks to them about reducing the harm of drugs and alcohol, minding their mental health, and staying safe and having positive sexual relationships. So that's kind of what we do here in Dublin. We also support a national network of LGBT groups around Ireland, over 20 of them, and we also do a lot of advocacy work. So we're currently working on a youth strategy, the government youth strategy, which will be the first of its kind because it focuses only on LGBTI plus young people. I don't think anyone else in the world has done that. There's been LGBT strategies, but this is the first in the world, another first for Ireland after the Mariage Equality referendum win. So we do that kind of policy work, and we also do a lot of work in schools. So we run campaigns and training to reduce homophobic and transphobic bullying in schools.
Wow.
So we're busy in here.
Yeah, no, but that's amazing. That's great. You guys get to do so much for not just, for the community, but also you're saying on a national level. That's great. Yeah. And then you as a person, what else do you maybe do for the community, for the LGBT community outside of Belong To? Is there anything else that you
Well, kind of busy in here at the day job, so I do that. I suppose some of in my personal part of my personal work that goes on is, as part of the work that we were doing in Mariage Equality, we were also working around family rights. So we were working on rights for children growing up with LGBT parents, and so I worked closely with a group of activists to help the government publish and enact the Children and Family Relationships Act. So that really was a huge piece of legislation that dragged Irish family law into the 21st century, and it recognises lots of different family forms that exist in Irish society, including LGBT families. But some of those parts haven't been commenced yet, so they're sitting there on the statute books, but those rights and those protections are still not available to our children. So I suppose in my spare time I'm still working on that, and still trying to mobilise and lobby to make sure that happens. I'm a mum myself, and so it has huge personal significance. So my partner, who's our daughter's other mum, is a legal guardian of our daughter Edie, but she's not a legal parent. And symbolically as well as legally, that's hugely important for us as a family. But also on a very practical level, you know, unless they commence that, Edie turns 18 and Clodagh reverts to being a stranger to her in law. So that's not what that wasn't what was agreed with the LGBT community when I suppose when that piece of legislation was being introduced, and we were being promised that those rights would be made available for us. So the work still goes on.
That was one of the things I was going to kind of ask you about, because you are a mother and you have your family. Like, what was it that you guys were expecting when this legislation did pass, and how much of that expectation was kind of met with this marriage equality being passed?
Well, I think it was even better than I imagined.
Okay, good.
Because so yeah, it's wonderful having the now knowing that you're an equal citizen, you know, on the statute books and in the Constitution. But I think even better is the fact that I know that 62% of the Irish electorate voted yes, and that it's quite difficult to try and put that into words, how affirming that is. But 2 days after the referendum win, I was going actually to a conference in Washington DC, and I was going through the airport, and I said goodbye to my partner, and we were holding hands and we kissed goodbye, just like any other couple there. But we're a same-sex couple, and usually I wouldn't do that in a public place without making sure, looking over my shoulder, worrying about who was there, what kind of reaction we might create or encounter. But I didn't that day, because I felt, no, most Irish people voted yes for this, so they are with us, and this is what they voted for. So it was hugely empowering and affirming, and so that's, I still have to come out, every other day of my life when I'm booking tickets for anything for the family, I have to explain to people. But whereas before people would be a bit like, what, took them a while. Now people are like, oh, okay then, okay. And then it's like, okay, brain clicks in, and we really haven't encountered anything bad since the referendum. But I have to make this really clear. That's because, I'm in my 40s, I'm out in work, I have a loving partner, I have a supportive family and friend network. So I'm not beholden, there isn't this power. I'm not in a position of where I'm in school or having to live in my parents' house, where young LGBT people are still in that situation. So even though they definitely feel more accepted in general, they're still in situations where they are worried about coming out, what the repercussions might be, whether they'll be rejected by their parents or by their friends, whether they'll be bullied, whether they'll be excluded from groups of friends, and quite honestly, it's a real fear, and we deal with young people, regularly, that are thrown out of their homes, that are made homeless by parents because they can't accept who they are, you know, and so that's why I think having a gay Taoiseach, our gay Prime Minister, who'll be sworn in tomorrow, irrespective of his politics, I think symbolically that's huge for young LGBT people and for their parents and the teachers and the other people, the other adults in their lives. You know, it says to young people, you can be whoever you want to be. Your gender identity or sexual orientation is not a barrier to being a leader in whatever field you want to go into. And for parents who are feeling, oh no, you know, this is something terrible, I think it'll give them a reason to rethink that and to realise, you know, it's not something that they are your child and they're the same person they were before they came out to you, and hopes and dreams may change, but they don't go away. You can still have wonderful hopes and dreams for they're still your child, no matter who they are, you know.
I think you guys are so lucky to have a gay Prime Minister. I think that's wonderful, especially with what we're dealing with in America. But I'm just gonna. So if I could ask you really quick, just on a different note, I watched the video that Michael recorded from the vigil that you guys did post last year, and the anniversary was yesterday. And you read some of the names. I kind of wanted to know, how did that feel for you as a person to read the names of people that were taken in that kind of an attack?
Yeah. Well, I actually feel emotional even talking about it now, because I was reading a lot of the stuff on Twitter last night and seeing pictures of the people who'd been killed, who'd been murdered. Yeah, I mean, we just felt we had to do something. You know, this was a really terrible hate crime. LGBT people were targeted and died as allies and people working in the club. You know, so we just wanted to mark it, and we wanted to show our solidarity with the LGBT community in Orlando, and all their families and friends who had probably thought their friend or family member was just going out for another night, to have a good night, and then this terrible thing happened. So it was a really awful reminder that we can't be complacent about equality, that, you know, for all the wins, there's always a chance that they get rolled back on, you know, and I think it was a really terrible reminder of that, a really stark reminder of it, you know. So I think, you know, it's 1 year on, it's really important to remember all the people who lost their lives, and to remember that terrible things happen to LGBT people across the world and in our own communities every day because of who they are. So we can never become complacent about homophobia and transphobia in society, and that's the extreme end of what can happen if we don't tackle it and if we don't combat it.
How did the news work with being in another country? You know, I know specifically Orlando time is 5 hours ahead. Yeah. So where it was about 3-4 in the morning when all that was coming out, on our end, how was it receiving it over here in Ireland? Because
it's first thing in the morning.
Yeah, being in another country.
Yeah, first thing in the morning. Well, news, you know, it's a global thing now, isn't it? Phenomenon. So everything that happens, stuff was happening on Twitter. People were posting things immediately, you know, at the same time as the attack was going on, and so news was getting around, and then obviously the LGBT news here picked up on it, and those of us with friends in the US and that were, you know, we would keep an eye on what's happening globally, and especially when we have ties, such close ties. We would have worked with activists in the US around marriage equality and other issues. So, I mean, it was almost, I suppose, instant that we learnt about it, and so we were glued to it, you know, we just couldn't believe it, and there was all the, you know, is this a terrorist attack, or is this a hate crime, or what's going on? And it was it was just awful, you know. It was incredibly sad to be witnessing that.
You were saying, you know, was it seen as a hate crime? Was it seen as terrorist? So how do you think that the LGBT community here saw it as?
Well, I mean, I think it became clear that that it was a hate crime, and I mean, you know, when you target a minority group like that, you know, no matter what, that's what it was. That's what the motivation was. So, you know, there's kind of a global community feel to. For LGBT people, because we're, I suppose, a minority, so that sense of solidarity is there, and so we you know, we were mourning them as well, you know, and as I said before, it was just that stark reminder that, you know, we would have looked at the US as kind of leaders in terms of acceptance and celebration of LGBT identities. And then something like this happens, and so yeah, so it was a big shock to us.
Yeah, for a lot of people. And I did see that you guys had a book of condolence as well in the city for people to sign. And can you tell me a little bit about what that was like for, I think, for the community, and also for you as a person? Like, did you personally sign it, and how that might have felt for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of a blur now what happened that day. I know we had the event across the road there, and myself and Broden, who's the CEO of Tenny, and Brian Sheehan, who was the CEO of Glen, Gay and Lesbian Equality Network, and Tenny's the Trans Equality Network of Ireland. We just decided we needed to do something together, and that there was kind of a feeling that people wanted to get together, and we just wanted to, yeah, just be together and to mark it, but also to mourn it and be upset and support each other, because it was like a sense of vulnerability, I guess, is how I can describe it. When an ferocious attack like that happens, for LGBT people, it is a reminder, really, I suppose, about how vulnerable as a community we can be. So it was really, I think, helpful for us to get together, and you know, a lot of people came into the city, and we were just upset, and we read out the names of the people who died. And there was some singing. Gloria, the Dublin LGBT choir, sang, and we cried, and we hugged each other, and then we went home, I guess, you know. But it was a sad time, and it was something that we carried with us for some time, you know.
Okay, so now a little bit about Pride, some happier, lighter stuff.
Yeah.
So how did it feel to now be the Grand Marshal for Pride? What is that like for you?
Oh, it's an amazing honour. I mean, I join a long list of people who are heroes of mine, you know, people who have set aside, you know, their own, you know, I suppose have given so much, have sacrificed so much, and have been so courageous, you know, people like Dr. Lydia Foy, Dr. Anne Louise Gilligan, and Catherine Zappone, Colm O'Gorman, so many people and Alice Smith, people I've huge regard for, who really paved the way for me and for other activists to do the jobs that we love doing, and really inspiring us and motivating us to keep going when times are tough and you hit speed bumps and barriers, and they help you find ways around them. So I hope that for the young people in Belong To in Dublin and throughout the national network, that they see this as, you know, that they feel that they one day feel the same way about me and the work that I'm trying to do, and with them. I mean, again, we work very much in partnership with young people, so they work with us in the media, in the advocacy work, in designing a lot of our campaigns, in our policy work even. So yeah, it's a huge honour, absolutely huge honour. I'm absolutely delighted and chuffed, and looking forward to this to the celebration.
Looking forward to it too, and for you too. So because of the legislation that passed for marriage equality, how do you think Pride has changed before and after the legislation was passed? Like, how have you seen Pride kind of, even if it was...
It's been a steady build. It's been a steady build, but definitely the year of, after the marriage equality referendum, there was just a surge of people, you know. So it's after St. Patrick's Day, it's the biggest festival in Dublin, and it's really become quite a diverse event where, I mean, it's not just LGBT people, it's a huge amount of allies and friends and family members that come in and take part, and they celebrate, and it's about definitely celebrating LGBT plus identities, but I think it's even bigger than that. I think it's about celebrating diversity. And so we have groups from all different aspects of Irish society who take part, whether they're from corporate or the unions, or other groups like the travellers groups. They all come and they show solidarity and they show their support. So it's a lovely celebration of the diversity of Irish life, I suppose, in Irish society, and big celebration of that kind of thing. So it marks how far we've come, and we also get to then signal to the wider community, to the wider society, of what the other things we need to overcome, and what we need to continue working to, at. So, you know, for example, this year, finding your inner hero is the theme, and the Dublin Pride picked that theme because they want to focus on that inner resilience that a lot of LGBT people have, and so despite the social exclusion, despite the fear of rejection, despite the bullying, so many of us thrive and get on with life and form friendships and relationships, and, you know, do work that we enjoy and become the people we are. But to remember that there are those who don't as well, and don't make it. That that LGBT people are, especially young people, are twice as likely to self-harm, 3 times as likely to attempt suicide, and 4 times as likely to experience mental health problems than their heterosexual friends. And that's a fact, and that's not because they're born LGBT, it's because of what society is still like, you know. We also know that because we don't have proper sexual health education in our schools, that LGBT people are much more at risk to STI infections and HIV infections. And in fact, there's been a significant increase in the number of young men, gay men and men who have sex with men who are becoming newly infected with HIV because of the, I suppose, lack of awareness and lack of education that's going on. We also know that young LGBT people are still experiencing more harm from drugs and alcohol than their friends, their heterosexual friends. And again, that's because of coping mechanism or a escape mechanism from the everyday discrimination and stigma that they face in their lives. So it's important to celebrate how far we've come, but also to kind of say to the outside world, this isn't the end of the road. Marriage equality and gender recognition are not the end of the road. There's still so much more work that we need to do if we want to achieve the kind of equal society that so many of us came out and voted for in the referendum.
Okay. Well, thank you. Those are all the questions that I really have, and you probably answered everything else that I possibly could have written down. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
World that I want to have a little pride in, my world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say